And we welcome you live to episode number 2 of the Primetime Rundown. I'm Joey Jarzynka right here on Blog Talk Radio, simulcasting live on the I-95 Sports and Entertainment Network. I'm here with my man and co-host Nick Partain. Tyler Adelle is not with us. He will be with us in about 2 weeks. 2 weeks' time next week, he will be at the LA Dodgers game and the Boston Red Sox game in Boston. He's going up there with a couple of friends. But folks, we cannot thank you enough for joining us here today. Joining us last time on Monday on our 5-hour show. Absolutely surreal, Nick. That show we were talking about for a while. It's come and gone. NHL free agency. We're going to get things started with that. And it came and gone. July 1st is, we're already at July 5th. Happy 4th of July, buddy.
Yeah, thanks, buddy. It was a good time. We could have actually gone longer that day. Stuff broke afterwards that we were kind of upset we weren't able to cover, but that's what today is for. So it's nice. We got a break yesterday. We had a nice day off of work to relax, research. We're ready to go.
Yeah, for sure. And we'll see what happens moving forward with the rest of NHL free agency. Let's get things started with our New York Islanders. Let's not forget, folks, before we do get started with that, we do have something that we will be debuting today, the 5:16 sports update, and along with the 6:31 sports update from 5 to 7, we are on the air here. If anyone would like to call in as a guest, 213-943-3594. Again, 213-943-3594. Let's get things started. First off, I want to talk about Tyler Skaggs. Let's have a moment of silence for him in just a few moments. But Tyler Skaggs was found dead in his hotel room in a tragic accident. We don't know, no foul play according to authorities, but definitely one that we'll miss. Patrick Corbin from the Nationals changed his number from 46 to 45. Major League Baseball allowed it for the day, and we'll give him a quick moment of silence as we pray for him and his family. And I'm sure the Los Angeles Angels and his family did appreciate that, and the rest of Major League Baseball, of course. But Nick, let's get things started already with NHL free agency. The big fishes are gone. Artemi Panarin, of course, spurned the Islanders. Anders Lee comes back on a friendly $7 million deal that, to me, I don't know if it's so friendly, as you know, a lot of these teams, including your Chicago Blackhawks, were going to be in the running for him at about $9 million per season for about 7 years, and really, your team's not in good cap shape. And would it have benefited them for $9 million for 7 years? I don't know about that.
Yeah, I don't know how truthful that $9 million number was. Once the Blackhawks traded for DeHaan and Mata, a lot of their cap space dried up. They seemed to be going more for role players after that. Be able to steal Robin Leonard on a one-year deal, have money for things like that. I don't think they were big game hunting once they realized that Lee really wasn't interested in leaving. Maybe $9 million was what they were trying to do originally before they made all these moves. Maybe Montreal was offering that. Maybe Colorado was offering that. But it's hard to understand exactly where that number came from. I'd have to guess Colorado with all that cap space.
I would say so. Most likely with all that, I mean, we figured and we saw something from Lou and from his agent Neil Sheehy the next day, where he was never leaving.
Yeah, those tweets were very demonstrative from his agent. They were very hype video-esque. Got the fan base rolling.
And his comeback video that you saw was...
Oh, that couldn't have been better.
That was
absolutely perfect.
From The Wolf of Wall Street. I think, truthfully, that was... You really could not have gotten any better with the "I'm not leaving" from Wolf of Wall Street. And from what we've seen, everybody here on Long Island has appreciated it, especially the people... The councilwoman, the county executive, Lauren Curran. She appreciated it, where she gave or awarded Anders Lee a proclamation from Nassau County. I mean, cool, I guess. But then you also look at Neil Sheehy's tweet where he wrote, quote, "There was never, capital never, a moment on this free agency day where it was even a possibility that Anders Lee was going to leave the New York Islanders. No matter what else happened, this type of quote-unquote fake news fries my bananas. Anders Lee said the most important quality in a teammate is loyalty, and he meant it." Tell me if I'm wrong, Nick. Did Neil Sheehy take a dig at John Tavares on that one and the rest of the Maple Leafs?
To be fair, he pointed out that Lee took a dig. Lee was the first one to take that dig. Sheehy was repeating Lee's words. Those were way back from when the season first started and Lee was named the captain. The digs were taken then. I don't think Lee has any real hard feelings for John Tavares because it seems like a lot of their teammates still hung out over the summer, so it might have been a playful dig, but who knows, maybe Lee really does have something, or he just knew that would really energize the fan base and get people in his corner as the captain.
It very well could be. Honestly, I think that there is so much going on with that $7 million a year. Again, the quote prior to the loyalty tweet, Anders Lee never left the New York Islanders. We did not, quote, negotiate, end quote, with teams as Anders wanted to stay with the New York Islanders. There was much interest, and his $7 million annual average value allows Lou Lamoriello to pursue players who can help Islanders win. Anders was staying with or without Panarin. Now you have today the offer sheet, and and from what you've showed me, from what I've seen, obviously I worked from home today and I didn't see much, but from what I saw, we could be breaking something at the 5:16 or 6:31 sports update, and potentially even earlier.
I don't know what you're talking about. I was not on Twitter while I was at work. I'm very diligent when I'm at the office, Joey.
Oh, that is true. Well,
but I saw it afterwards. Yeah, apparently some teams are sniffing around Mitch Marner. I've heard the number is $12.5 million a year thrown around. I've heard that he wants to stay short term because he wants to re-hit the market later. So we're going to see what happens. Apparently things are getting serious.
well, I mean, I would think just by looking at that, it's very evident that he's betting on himself, Mitch Marner, from the Toronto Maple Leafs, and could he do it? I think he can, and those 4 first-round draft picks that would be coming back in the way of Toronto, they would most likely be, depending on how the Islanders play the next 4 years, if Toronto does not match it and they take 4 first-rounders. I mean, truthfully, you now have a lot of salary taken to Alexander Kerfoot, Tavares, Matthews, and Kerfoot's really the least of the problems. You have only one defenseman signed past the 2019-20 season, and that's Morgan Rielly, and you're going to need help on the defensive end. Cody Ceci just signed a $4.5 million deal, 1 year. Nikita Zaitsev was traded. Ron Hainsey signed a free agent contract with them, and then you have Tyson Barrie, who came over with 50% salary retention with Colorado, and really, Colorado has the funds to eat some money, and they retained 50% of the salary, where they only are on the hook for $2.75 million. Toronto, that is. And same thing goes with Colorado. I think Toronto won that trade, by the way. I think Toronto won that trade because you lost Nazem Kadri, who has been a head case. In his farewell tweet in Toronto, it was a little bit of a dig to Boston. Tiny bit. You sign Andreas Janssen, Kasperi Kapanen, who Toronto drafted in the Phil Kessel deal in 2014 in the Philadelphia draft. Zach Hyman's going to be on the long-term injured reserve. You also have Nathan Horton for another year at $5.3 million. Obviously, that could be on the long-term IR. But once Zach Hyman comes back, you lose that $2.25 million cap cushion, and you have to pay, or we think you have to pay, Mitch Marner. Multiple times, Nick, there were things where it was, or reports out there that, quote, as Tyler had said last week, this could be the year of the offer sheet. And Sebastian Aho's the offer sheet that was signed, or that he signed in Montreal, And then we looked at the terms where $21 million had to be signed through the first 12 months. And their new ownership and general manager Don Waddle said, yeah, we're doing it. And on that tweet, I think you saw, will they sign it, yes or we, in French. So it was either yes or yes. They knew exactly what they were doing.
Yeah, they took it even further than that. They were laughing at Montreal after the fact. They wanted to make this a very public spectacle. That's owner Dundon's way. He's been very loud and extensive with everything that they have done so far. He's trying to bring some personality, some swagger to the team that has the storm surge. I like it. I like the fact that he put Montreal on the spot, even though Montreal didn't do anything wrong. It was a perfectly legitimate maneuver for them to try and take a team that doesn't have a ton of money coming in and try and force their hand. Maybe they would have got lucky. They would have gotten Sebastian Aho for a first, second, and third on a team-friendly deal where they just would have had to make a signing bonus payouts early on. Montreal can swallow that no problem, but it was awesome to see Carolina step up to the plate, say, yeah, we're doing that. We're fine.
And not only that, too, it's crazy how we just saw not too long ago Carolina and Colorado, Ottawa, and the Islanders were the bottom 4 teams below the cap floor. That was obviously once the Devils traded for PK Subban and their cap went up. And they're actually still not at the cap floor. And the Hurricanes, all of a sudden, after they match that deal where they have to pay the current cap hit for Sebastian Aho for the next 5 seasons, or 8-4-5-4. So 8-4-5-4, and the craziest part is that what we see with Sebastian Aho, he has the ability. We're going to keep on going here. We did lose connection with Blog Talk Radio. We're going to take a break at 5:30 so we can reconnect with them. But right now we're on the I-95 Sports and Entertainment Network. But Blog Talk Radio, unfortunately, is not active at this point in time. i95sportsnetwork.com. If you're listening in, please let us know anything. You can give us a call on Zeno Radio. We do have the lines open, same exact phone number as the last one, 213-943-3594. But Nick, let's go back to this 8-4-5-4 million. Carolina is the one that matched that deal. You're paying, as we said, $21 million in the first 12 months in that signing bonus. Tom Dundon would have been an absolute... He would have looked like an absolute hypocrite. First, you start off your American Football League, or the Arena Football League, that you basically put almost double-digit $1 million in the toilet.
Yeah, I think I heard 70 was the number.
70, right. I heard around there. I was going to come up with an assumption of around 80, but I don't think that's right. But from what we've seen, you have to, from what we've heard from him, and where he said we're going to match any offer that anybody does. Well, okay, you're going to match a $13 million offer. You're going to match $21 million. Unfortunately, the ball was in his court, obviously, and the leverage that was there from Mark Bergevin, he pulled that right under from Tom Dundon, and he had to match the offer. Otherwise, he could lose his current fan base that he is trying to rebuild and to rebrand. And on top of it, Patrick Marleau, that they bought out, his entire salary from this season, $6.25 million, is against the cap. So, as we said earlier, their cap space went from $30 million to now only $10. They're $11 million off the cap floor. Unbelievable.
Yeah, but they're not like a big free agency team. Unfortunately, not a lot of guys want to go there, but they do have room for the one guy that they've still been circling back to, and they're just waiting on a decision from Justin Williams. I don't think they had any other big fish out there they were going for. They used the Marleau contract to bring in other things, so if you're a team that can't land free agents, it's smart to use it to accumulate draft picks or young talent, take on bad contracts. It's very well done. They have plenty of money to bring back Mrazek. They have Reimer from that previous trade. They don't have any other big free agents. If they want to extend Brock McGinn off of his RFA or Gustav Forsling, they still have money to do that and money to bring back Williams. So they're very well run. They know what they're doing.
They have a lot still to think of, but now that it is 5:16 here on the East Coast, and 5:16, or 5:16 rather, is the area code of Nassau County, and we are on Long Island here, so we're going to get started with our 5:16 sports update. And someone that did tweet, Michael Grange from the Rogers Sportsnet in Toronto, one that covers the Toronto Raptors. So I feel quote, so I feel confident saying that Kawhi was in Toronto as of Thursday night and was unlikely to have been on the Maple Leaf Sports and Entertainment corporate jet that apparently left early Friday morning for San Diego and is apparently on its way back to Toronto this afternoon. That's all I got. That's something huge, Nick. Where the entire Maple Leafs, Raptors, and Toronto FC owners and the entire Maple Leaf Sports and Entertainment Network, or group rather, they left without him. He was in Canada. I mean, if it was me, I think he's going to still be there. I think he's going to stay.
Yeah, I mean, what I've heard that makes a lot of sense to me is the fact that he might just sign a 2-year deal, stay in Toronto, run it back. They have Marc Gasol for 1 more year. Let's see how can grow a little more. I think Lowry only has 1 more year in his contract. It might be like a 1-and-1 kind of deal where he's a year and an option, but you'd be safe to say he'll stay for 2 years because that'll allow him to get the Supermax afterwards. So I think that's going to be what he's going to do based on the money. He's happy. He's the leader of the team. They're a good team. Masai Ujiri was a huge influence on convincing him that it was a great organization when he was traded there and to give it his all and that it would work out. They built a champion. I mean, to me, I don't see enough of a reason for him to leave. I know he wants to go home to LA, but Clippers didn't get a big star to go with him. They really don't have much there right now. They'd have to wait for next year in a weak class. The Lakers, you're going to be hated if you go to the Lakers right now. And I don't think that bothers Kawhi that much, but would you rather be a god in Toronto or the devil on the Lakers or the only star in LA with your friends? I feel like bite the bullet, stay in Toronto, play the rest of your career there, then you can be in LA for the rest of your life. I don't know.
Yeah, I think you said it completely perfect. I think basically what has to be done is whatever you do, make your decision wisely. 2-year deal, if that is the case. We'll see what happens. We'll get back to Kawhi later on, but we do want to bring some sad news to the Primetime Rundown. No death, fortunately. Teddy Bruschi, ESPN analyst, former Patriots linebacker, Teddy Bruschi, recovering after a stroke on Thursday. He apparently noticed signs, face droopiness, slurred words, weakness on the same side. Did not say which side of the body he was feeling weakness, but definitely all prayers out to him and to his family. Just saw him on TV not too long ago. Crazy stuff on NFL Live. So things could happen in a blink of an eye, just like Tyler Skaggs. One night he's out taking trying to get Tommy LaStella into the All-Star game, and the next day he's unfortunately not on this earth anymore. So everybody has a place on this earth for either a short period of time, long period of time, but there's a plan. And also, to conclude our sports update, Michael Conforto met Jerry Springer. Jerry Springer. Jerry Seinfeld.
Man,
This is our show. Not only that, and the reason why I said that is because last night at the 4th of July party that I had gone to, I wore a Jerry Springer security T-shirt, and that's why I was thinking. But Michael Conforto, after meeting Jerry Seinfeld, claims that he was starstruck, which obviously I think I would be too. Lifelong Mets fan. Show about nothing. 30 years later, he is, quote, they are, quote, still in the master of their domain, if you will. 30 years later, I know I watch it every night, so that's just me. So that's our 5:16 sports update. I know it is 5:20 already, but let's get back to business in the NHL side of things. The New York Islanders, we talk about Anders Lee. We talk about Semyon Varlamov. Ilya Sorokin. We think he's going to be here. We think he is. We don't know. We have no idea. I don't really know how that's going to play out. And truthfully, Nick, I don't know, and I don't know if you know maybe, but he's going to get paid. Varlamov, rather, is going to get paid $5 million for the next 4 seasons. God help us. If he can stay healthy, this would be great. And this would be, I think, a little still too much because really there was no competition for him at all. He would have probably made it all the way till today, and probably even farther. How much does Sorokin get paid? Because now he is, I don't know how old he is exactly, but he's one of the quote-unquote best signings or best goalies not in the United States, not playing in the NHL.
Yeah, that's an opinion that I've heard, that he is the best goalie not playing in the NHL. He's playing in the KHL, putting up obscene numbers. We've seen that before, but for a kid this young to be doing it consistently year in and year out was very impressive. I believe when he comes over, he gets like a 1-year entry-level deal, and then would have to get signed like as an RFA right after that. So it's not like we're going to get a big discount on him when he comes over. So that's what makes the Varlamov cap hit so puzzling. But if he is truly the rod to reel in the big fish we've been trying to get for years now, and Sorokin comes over and he's one of the best goalies in the NHL for 10 years, nobody will care. But if Varlamov plays poorly, Sorokin doesn't come, we lose Greiss next year, it could be a complete undoing of everything they've been trying to build here. So the most important thing is make sure Varlamov gets in, works with the goalie team that the Islanders have, arguably the best in the NHL. Should have no problem having him be at least competent. And with Greiss on the roster, Varlamov, I consider the backup. Greiss has been phenomenal for the Islanders every season except the Doug Weight year where nobody was good defensively or stopping anything, but he's a battler. He won a playoff series with this team. If Varlamov struggles in year 1 or isn't healthy, we have Greiss. It's the next year that things become a problem. If Sorokin doesn't come, or even if he comes, he's a rookie. We need Varlamov healthy. We need him to be steady, solid. And for $5 million, you need to be a very good goalie for this team.
Last year, 2018-19, he split time. Not really split time. The majority of his starts was with Colorado. Philip Grubauer was the backup. 49 starts last year with 2.87 goals against, 90.9 save percentage, and that's not that good.
No, it's not, but it's a much different playing in Colorado than Barrett shots.
And with Mitch Korn as your goalkeeper coach.
Mitch Korn was the director.
Yeah, Mitch Korn, right. Yeah, right.
He needs to get more recognition. Everyone mentions Korn, but Grieco's the one who was really working with these guys hand-on. He did a phenomenal job.
And from what Tyler was here, he would say it. The guru.
Yes.
The guru of goaltending.
Yes, that's Mitch Korn. He's the head guy, the GOAT, but Grieco's grinding his teeth, doing the good work.
As what multiple people have said. And then you look back just a few years ago, or 2 years ago rather, 51 games played, 2.68 goals against, 920 save percentage.
That's the numbers.
And that's not with Mitch Korn. That's not with Pierre Greco. That's not with Barry Trotz. That is with Jared Bednar. Then 3 years ago, 24 games, obviously was injured a majority of the time. Jonathan Bernier, that was the year that they were brutal, 2016-17. 24 games played, 3.38 goals against, 898 save percentage. I think Philip Grubauer has taken over there, obviously, now that Varlamov's gone. He's done his job there. I think for $5 million, it's an overpayment. But in order to get Sorokin here long term, you have to pay up, especially that both both players are represented by the same agent. And the moment everybody knew that, it was inevitable. Do we know what the deal is, Semyon? Do we know what the deal is with Ilya? I don't know. Ask him. Which is a fair assessment. Why are we asking you? Why are they asking him? Well, because they're trying to get him to spill. Now, does the domestic abuse case travel with him? We don't know. I would assume probably. Will Lou Lamoriello try and keep it quiet? I'd say yes.
Well, to be fair, everything was settled in court it's a stigma that's going to stick with him. It's
for the rest of his
for
life.
him, but if he really did what he was accused of, it's disturbing. The case turned out that he got paid a settlement, that his girlfriend was charged basically with lying, and from what I kind of heard, they caught her on tape talking to her friend about how she was just trying to scam the pro athlete out of money. You can't assume anything is true. There's no true evidence that says anything one way or the other. So it's a sticky situation that we'd rather just keep out of things being talked about in the locker room. Hopefully he's a good guy. He would never do it again if he did anything, and that the whole situation was rectified. It's settled in the courts, so it'll never come back up. As a matter of that, we can only hope. But that is a concern with Varlamov. You don't know if he's a bad egg. You don't know if he's going to do anything off the ice, and it's terrifying, especially something as serious as domestic abuse, which is the kind of thing that I feel like if you get charged with it and you're truly convicted, you should be thrown out of pro sports. It's despicable.
Slava Voinov is another one that obviously is most likely going to be coming back to the NHL in the next year or two, and clearly we got your stance on that, and truthfully,
it's an absolute joke.
I'm with you on it. I think that goes the same thing with pro football, with Kareem Hunt.
So many people in pro football.
Kareem Hunt, Ray Rice. And it's not only pro football, it's everywhere else, and it's everywhere. And it's whoever it is. It could be anybody.
Yeah, I don't get it. There's so many kids out there busting their butts in the minors, trying to work their way up into systems, doing everything the right way, cleanly. And these scumbags that are going out there breaking the law, taking full advantage of their stature as a pro athlete, getting everything on their own handed to them. Even though, they give a half-hearted apology on national TV, and that's what happens. There are too many good players out there to cater to a handful of guys that are bad apples. Just kick them out of the league and tell them let them go to Canada, let them go to some independent league somewhere and play.
Well, tell us how you really feel, Nick. I don't get me wrong, I do agree with you. I agree with you completely. I think that the way that things are going with the Islanders, I think that it will still be with him forever, as you said. Should have, and it's a good thing that he wasn't. It's a good thing that he wasn't convicted of it. His famous mug shots out there, obviously. But other than that, you kind of feel for Robin Lehner a little bit.
Yeah, I have a little bit of an out there theory that I've obviously heard nothing about. This is just a crazy person speaking.
And before you get there, I just want to give the audience just a little bit of background where it was public that the Islanders did not counter with him or whatever it was, or it was he denied the 2-year $10 million offer, or the 1-year $5 or whatever it was, which is what he got in Chicago.
He said that the offer was out there for 2 years. He didn't like the money, so he said he would think about it, and then Blue got tired of waiting and went out and made a deal. But I've always gotten the sense from all the stories that he was seeking Varlamov the whole time. We heard that he was enamored with him from the day he became the Islanders GM, that he was looking to get this guy. So Leonard would have never been a thing if he would have landed Varlamov last year, but I don't know. It's unfortunate that Leonard got beat by the system, but my crazy person theory is that Leonard signed a 1-year deal. Thomas Greiss has 1 year left. Let's say next season ends. I don't think Leonard's going to rush to sign anything unless he has like a superb year with Chicago. Even then, though, I think he'll keep his ears open. If we get to free agency next year, and Sorokin's not coming, the Islanders need another goaltender. Leonard loved it here, loved it in the system. Do you think there's a chance, maybe, that he'd be like, I'll come back and split time with Varlamov. No love lost. Fine.
He wouldn't get the money he commands.
No, but is he going to have as good a year in Chicago?
He might.
He does, he'll command huge money because their defense was so bad last year. They'd have to do a full system change to have something in place to really have a good goaltending year for Robin Leonard. And
I lost the New York Islanders just 2 years ago when they were the worst defensive team in league history.
Yeah, we know why they changed. They brought in a superb goaltending staff, the best defensive head coach arguably in hockey, and some gritty defensive veteran players to plug in around already decent NHL lineup. So if the Blackhawks are able to pull that off, sign Leonard long term, good for Leonard, but it's just a little theory that I have that who knows? He signed a 1-year deal. he might have an eye on the fact that, all right, if they get spurned by Sorokin, there's a spot there. I don't love Chicago. If another big spot doesn't open up that I want to go to, I wouldn't mind going back. It seems like everything he said that we love to hear with all his heart, the fan base, the system, he understands that their coaching staff for goalies, their head coach is top of the line. So he might come back, even on another one-year deal.
I agree.
To prove it again.
It could be. It could be, but the way I see it, at $5 million for Varlamov, I think.
Yeah, it'd definitely be tough to squeeze another goalie in. So.
Or unless you trade Varlamov, which clearly Lou Lamoriello is not going to do. You have him
that
for
would work is if he bombed, and they'd have to give up a draft pick and ship him off to Seattle or Ottawa or somewhere else.
Well, then you also have the Andrew Ladd situation there as well, because again, $5.5 million goes against the cap hit for the next 3 seasons with Andrew Ladd, and then this is the final year with 31 teams in the league. And then you have Seattle next season, surprisingly, and you also have the expansion draft. So just a few years ago, we were talking about this not too long ago, which crazy enough was 3 years ago, or 3 years ago, was just as wild.
Right, because they've had 2 full seasons.
Yeah, exactly. So 3 years ago, we were talking about who are they going to keep. You also have Mikhail Grabowski, you have Nikolai Kulemin on the books. You have so many players that need to go, and you have a lot of money. And everybody looked to this season. Everybody looked to this season, similar to the way, I hate to say it for the Knicks fans listening in, but the way the Knicks looked to this season. And the way that it was, I remember I did a few years ago, where I looked to, my goodness, 2018-19. This is the year that all that money comes off the books. Almost $30 million comes off the books. And we could be signing big-name guys. Belmont's coming. We'll get to Belmont in a few moments. You have so many different guys and different players that they could be coming to the island. It could be fill in the rest for me. I think you get what I'm saying.
I mean, yeah, we had high hopes looking at the future, but that's what happens. When you look too far ahead, you never know what's going to happen. We never thought Jordan Eberle at that point was an Islander.
Yep.
So that was the first big thing that they did. They chunk of cap space went to him. He re-signed miraculously, but we thought we never knew what happened. Lee stepped up in a big way and became the kind of player that commanded a $7 million deal. Bronk went from being somebody that we were trying to ship out with every fiber of our being, and he turned into a $6 million a year player. So it turned out that internal development took up all that cap space and the ill-fated Andrew Ladd signing. And even Bailey got himself a big contract from playing well. So looking back to that moment, we never would have seen the contract speak. If you told me back then that the Islanders signed Ladd, Brock, and Bailey to the contracts they have now, we would have been very terrified. Instead, we're happy about it.
Now that I'd like to ask you this question, do you think that it could be something where, well, maybe, just possibly maybe, that Josh Bailey would be the odd man out in a couple of years?
I mean, I could see it.
Because truthfully, it is, in fairness, with the Lou Lamoriello regime, either Bailey gets dropped down to the third line at some point, because now Lou Lamoriello is going big game hunting.
Well, there's one more spot for a winger in the top 6. If he brings in one winger, nobody has to move. It's a matter of if a guy like Anthony Beauvillier, after being re-signed as an RFA, takes a big leap and commands a top 6 role. That's when things start to get dicey, but it's not exactly a fear right now. We're looking way down the road if Bailey or somebody else in the top 6 would have to get moved, but for now, they have room for one more guy, and I'd rather not be Kunako again. I'd rather it be somebody outside.
Just a couple of days ago, or actually yesterday, a couple of days ago, that's the way it feels, but yesterday, there was Long Island business news that came out with Andrew Cuomo, governor of New York, coming down to Long Island on Monday. The 8th. The 8th of July. And he's going to be, most likely, what has been spoken about over the months, speculation with the new Belmont train station that would be just behind the backstretch of the Belmont racetrack. Multiple critics from Elmont residents, Floral Park residents, Belrose, multiple people have not liked, have completely disagreed with everything and everybody. And now there is a most likely chance. Let me rephrase that. A good opportunity for the Islanders to actually have a definite home.
Yeah, all signs are pointing that way. We're assuming that...
Because why would you be rebuilding or building a train station? For what?
Yeah.
If you're not building that arena...
The train station is ridiculous. Not that many people are going to take the train to Belmont racetrack.
And not only that, but you also have a lot of people in that area that have to go other places. They have to travel up north to Great Neck, all the way up to Great Neck. They have to go down south. They have to drive. Not many people want to do that anymore.
No.
So now is the time, to potentially get this going. And then it would help out both. Obviously, I don't want to take the... I don't want to be the guy that, that says, it's a good deal. I mean, don't get me wrong. From Belmont, you only have Belrose, Queens Village, Hollis. Jamaica, obviously, is not too far. But really, for those residents that are in Elmont, it's so close. And you have to still get in your car, travel, park, but you're going to have one right there. And it's going to be full time.
Well,
and it only runs on race day.
Yes. Well, even more if everything...
And race day ended... race day ends this Sunday. Breeders' Cup tomorrow.
If everything goes through with the train station and becomes full-time, what really it is, it's not even about the Elmont residents using it themselves. Sure, that's a benefit for them. Obviously, they'll enjoy that. The big thing is they are so against the traffic that this arena will bring. But if there's a full-time train station there, it will definitely cut into the traffic. People like to drink when they go to these games, and they're not going to drive if they're drinking, and they're tired of having a designated driver. There will obviously be a humongous crowd that's going to drive and tailgate. It's a big part of this. But if people coming from the city want to still come to games, it's a lot easier for them to take the train, whereas people coming from the eastern area might be more apt to drive. So we'll see how it plays out. It's definitely going to cut down the traffic. It'll make things easier. It won't bother the residents as much as a ton of cars would. Hopefully it balances things out to the point that the residents aren't as upset about it. Plus they get a train station they can use on every other day.
2021 to 2022 is the estimated time of opening for business for the new Belmont Park Arena. 18,500 would be the estimated seating capacity. 250 room hotel, retail space, movie theater. Would cut into our time at Belmont Stakes. We'll see.
Yeah, we'll
figure it out. Well, we're going to take a quick break here on Blog Talk Radio on the I-95 Sports and Entertainment Network. We'll be back on the opposite side of this break. You're listening to Primetime Rundown right here on Blog Talk Radio. Kawhi Leonard update due up when we return. Back here on Blog Talk Radio and streamed live on the I-95 Sports Network as well. I'm Joey Jarzynka alongside Nick Partain. The Kawhi Leonard update that we did promise you, unfortunately, is that he has not chosen anything yet. So sorry for the I would say the yeah, I was gonna say, yeah, I was leading you guys on, so that's pretty bad. I do apologize, but heading back to NHLPA free agency and salary arbitration. Some of the players, the 40 players that have announced that they've selected salary arbitration, biggest names on the list: Danton Heinen from Boston, Calgary's Sam Bennett, David Rittich, their only goaltender on the roster, Evan Rodriguez.
Cam Talbot's son.
Cam Talbot, right, yes, my apologies, yep. Anton Forsberg obviously was just traded to Carolina from Chicago. Brock McGinn, he was due for a pay raise. I don't know how big, but the biggest name on the list that I see here would be Jacob Trouba, Pavel Buchnevich. How about the Stanley Cup winner Jordan Binnington? Yeah, exactly. Hashtag Winnington. So there's a lot of players. That also includes Rocco Grimaldi, who we were very high about, Nick, last on Monday. Alex Iafallo, JT Compher.
Will Butcher.
Yep.
Jersey.
Exactly, and someone that I always speak about, Connor Carrick, who has been in the Mike Babcock doghouse and most likely will be in forever. Excuse me. So, I mean, the way that this is that the Rangers now, $11 million to Artemi Panarin, 40-goal scorer. Things could be a little bit tight moving forward. Jacob Trouba, most likely signing, I'd say, a 1-year deal. The way this looks, could be a little bit more.
I see him getting a long-term deal. I think the Rangers would be crazy to play this game going forward. You got a chance to match anything that comes your way for him. You have a chance to give him whatever you want. He's basically expressed that he wants to stay here and play here, so I don't see why he wouldn't accept a long-term deal, and I don't see why the Rangers would hesitate to give him one unless Trouba's demands are outrageous. But he's in New York. He can make money in other ways here in New York. Through advertising, he's going to be a big name. I think it'd be smart for him and smart for the Rangers to both lock this up. 7 years, long deal. He's only 25. 7 years takes you into your early 30s. I think it'll find some fair footing for both sides. Hopefully, for the Rangers' sake, they can keep it under $7 million, but I don't know if that's going to happen. I feel like somewhere in the 6 to 8 range is probably the most likely outcome. To the Rangers' benefit, Trouba hasn't been a top pairing defenseman. He's been mostly on the second or third out in Winnipeg, but on Trouba's side, he's been great. He's 25, he has the whole skill set, the whole package, and the Rangers' defense is basically just him. Kevin Shattenkirk, the Rangers don't really want. Mark Stoll, the Rangers definitely don't want. Brady Shea is a solid defenseman. Brendan Smith, the Rangers really don't want. Adam Fox picked the Rangers, but we don't know what he is. Tony DeAngelo has showed flashes. He also needs a contract. So Trouba knows they need to hit on him. They need to get him. He needs to be their linchpin defenseman going forward. The team absolutely needs it. So we'll see how those negotiations go. For the Rangers' sake, hopefully they can get it done clean, quick, get done with it, not have it dribble into the season, God forbid, and end up a William Nylander situation. They want this done, they want him on the roster, long term, settle it, be done.
Or they would also have to pay bulk of their salary, or a bulk of that salary, just like William Nylander. You said it, $12 million in the first year. Just last year, it was $12 million he was paid, and it took Toronto to the tippy top of the cap because of that, but obviously it went down to 6. It was because he signed midway into the season. I'm sure they don't want that to happen with Mitch Marner. Who knows?
Yeah, and on top of that, one of the... Sorry.
No, you're good.
One of the big things that goes in the players' favor is you could see that it affected William Nylander's play. He wasn't the same player until maybe the very end of the season, and you can't afford to have one of your better players on a team that wants to contend sitting on the bench, rotting, not being in game shape. You need to be able to get contracts done, so it gives the players a little bit of leverage that Nylander is able to wait it out and still get a favorable deal. Other guys are going to do this if they don't get the money. They'll sit home, they'll wait, they know they'll get paid by somebody eventually, so they have more leverage than they ever had. The Rangers need to understand this and get Trouba signed. Don't play around with this thing. Even if the Rangers aren't going to be that competitive this year, you don't want to create bad blood. You don't want your fan base to not be understanding why their prize trade acquisition isn't on the ice. Get it done. Pay him. You have a lot of money coming off the books after this year. You have a lot of young talent that will be on entry-level deals for a couple of years going forward. You're building the right way. You can afford to pay what you think is a young, top-pairing defenseman prime dollar right now, which is why they were able to sign Panarin. They have the room. They have young players. Pay the big money to the stars. Fill everything in around that with the young talent you've been acquiring, all these draft picks that you have. You have things set up right. Don't cheap out stars.
Personally, I think also, now that you said this, Nick, I think that Rangers are going to be in cap hell soon, and I think we brought this up last week, and I know that this was a little bit of a debate between the three of us here, and I know for a fact that the way it looks, just by looking at some of the Rangers, just you sign Artemi Panarin to that $11 million deal, 11,642, and he brought his price up, and I'm sure the Rangers, well, they countered, and they got their man, but it's for 7 years, and you still have a lot of names to sign. You have a lot of guys to sign in about a couple of years, and I think their window is not open yet. Their window may not be open, and I have a sneaky suspicion that in the 7 years that Panarin is in Manhattan, I don't see them winning a cup, and that is not me saying that as an Islanders fan. That is the utmost truth. You're going to look at guys like Pavel Buchnevich. He's going to take a bridge deal. It's going to be small for him for now. You're going to re-sign Brendan Lemieux. You also, if Elias Anderson, Filipino, how about Adam Fox? If he turns out to be so good as advertised, Brendan Smith, you still have him on the books for another 2 years at a combined $8.7 million. Brady Shea, you signed for another 5 years. Okay, his salary kicks in. You still got to sign Anthony DeAngelo. And in 2 years also, thankfully for them, Henrik Lundqvist, $8.5 million comes off the books. It all depends who they bring in.
Yeah.
It all depends if they trade away these guys for someone bigger, like a big fish. You trade away years ago, you trade away Ryan Callahan for Marty St. Louis.
That ended up being a major blessing for them getting out of re-signing Callahan, who that contract was an albatross mostly for Tampa. And I'm going to say, I disagree with you. I think if the Rangers continue doing this the way they're doing it, they're never really going to have that big of a cap issue. The problem will be if they go out and really keep free agent spending, which has gotten them in trouble in the past. This new regime seems like they're building from within, and the way you look at the way these entry-level contracts are structured, it kind of saves them from themselves for a little while. Adam Fox has 3 more years left, making under $1 million. If he turns into a star, you don't have to pay him until 2022, 2023, and he's restricted, so you're not going to be completely blown out of the water on an open market. And the perfect thing about that is, by the time Adam Fox is a restricted free agent, Shattenkirk's contract, Stahl's contract, and Brendan Smith's will all have been off the books for a year. Plenty of money will be there. Same with Filipino, Elias Anderson, Brett Howden. They have 2 more years left on their entry-level contracts. By the time they become restricted free agents, the Rangers will have a ton of money. You'll have all those defenseman contracts that are albatrosses. You'll have Henrik Lundqvist's big contract off the books. And the only real money they'll have to be paying to someone that's not there is Dan Girardi on a roughly $1 million buyout for a few years. So if everything pans out, they'll have plenty of room to sign all the young guys. But the one thing I might agree with you is, will they win a cup or be very, very competitive for one in that time frame? And to me, the biggest part of that is in goal. Lundqvist isn't going to be the starter on a championship caliber team that the Rangers built. It's unfortunate for him. He's battled for them for so long. He was the heart and soul of the team. He dragged them as far as they ever went, and they just couldn't get it done. So, can you replace him with somebody who's... He might not even have to be Lundqvist-esque, but they're going to need a solid goaltender. Have a Russian
could be
kid.
Someone most likely that's probably going to be through free agency, or it could be that Russian kid too.
I heard they had a Russian kid, but that's apparently still far enough away that we can't assume that that's any kind of a done deal. And a young goaltender on a contending team can sometimes be murky because you need a level-headed, steady guy back there.
And if I'm not mistaken, Igor Shesterkin is his name.
Yes, that is the one.
And Shesterkin. Igor Shesterkin is his name, 23 years old on his entry-level deal. 2 more years at $925,000.
That's their X factor.
Yep.
If he becomes a star, this is going to be one of the best teams in the NHL in 2 or 3 years. If not, and they have to go free agent hunting, goalies can be so fickle. You can bring in a good goalie that you think, and you could completely lose it. You can have to go out there and pay a Bobrovsky contract, and then that really hurts your ability to sign young guys. What they have to hope for is that he develops. If he develops, and they bring
as advertised,
and they bring in a couple more defensemen, most of their prospects that are on the fringe are up front. Up front, they're going to be very exciting. They have a lot of young kids there. that should work out. It's on defense that they have to make sure that Adam Fox and Anthony D'Angelo are properly groomed, and that Jacob Trouba is paid like a star, long-term, and plays like a star. Then you have to bring in some other guys behind them. That might be where they have to free agent spend a little bit, because that's the area they're a little thinner, and they have too many big contracts to go out and sign more free agents. You're better off developing young defensemen, let Shattenkirk and Stahl, who have been battle-tested in playoff series before, teach some young guys, groom them, and then have the defense come along in a few years when that new goalie is coming up. And for now, let your offense be exciting, put fans in the seats, develop. They could be a really, really dangerous team offensively, even if they trade Chris Kreider, which we've heard rumored, because he only has 1 year left on his deal, and they're not sure if they want to bring him back with all these kids behind him.
Yeah, I think I have to agree with you there. I'm not going to lie to you, I have to agree with you. I just don't feel that. I feel that eventually, at some point, the front office might get a little cocky.
Yep, that's where their problems come from.
And they get a little cocky and they think, well, we're doing well, we just don't have that little oomph. And they sign that oomph to a big year deal. The cap's going to go up in a few years with Seattle.
Yep.
And good for them.
I'd say you end up with Wade Redden, Scott Gomez, these guys that after like
Donald
a year,
Brashear, you never know.
That's where they have to be proven. They have to stay level-headed. They have to understand this is a process. Do it right. Don't throw out big contracts. Don't get nervous. Don't overreact. You have to be proven with this kind of thing because the salary cap dictates everything. You need to be able to stay steady. You need to look at Tampa as the gold standard. Sign your young guys when they become developed. Don't reach out and grab a guy just because you think he's going to be great, and don't do it until you have a core in place. Bring in that free agent support core already in place. Chicago's the one who was able to do it the most successfully. So they turned a group of great young guys. They went out and they got Marian Hossa, great two-way forward, who fit them perfectly as a veteran presence. He completely turned that forward group into an absolutely dominant after he lost 2 straight Stanley Cups. He was able to win one with Chicago. And on the other end of things, Nicholas Chalmers...
He did win that one in 2009 with Pittsburgh.
I thought he lost.
He did in 2008.
I thought he lost both years. Why do I feel like he was with Pittsburgh then Detroit? No, he was with... Oh, no, maybe you're right. I thought he went back and forth, though, and lost both. I could be wrong. I've been wrong before. But it was him and then the defensive acquisition of Nicholas Chalmerson from your San Jose Sharks. Thank you so much.
Yes,
he was the
please.
Absolute linchpin of a defenseman on that
Yes,
team.
you are right. My mistake. Yes, you are right about Marian Hossa. Yes, Pittsburgh 2008, Detroit in 2008 and 9. So he did lose 2 consecutive.
Yeah. So Chicago gave him what he deserved. But that's the kind of thing you have to do, is find the right veterans to fit around a young core, and that's when you absolutely set everything off. That's the best way to do it. Because you have your young guys still not making so much. They were able to bring in grizzled veterans, two-way guys that were able to really lock down their defensive end of it and let the young guys go out there and score and do their thing, and that's how they really bring it all together.
Traded from the Atlanta Thrashers years ago. My goodness.
R.I.P. Atlanta Thrashers. Great Twitter account, though. Find the not Atlanta Thrashers Twitter account. They're always jumping into everything, acting like they still exist. It's hilarious.
Absolutely crazy, but I think something that we got to jump into is baseball, too.
Yeah.
And I think also that we look at the home run derby and we look at the local team and Pete Alonso and what he's done, Nick. It's been amazing, but the sad part is that the team is again under 500. Fans have been calling for the head of Robinson Cano for the Wilpons. No shock, that's been every single year. I had a conversation with my boss not too long ago that it's really, 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 really sad that the Mets are 39-48, 12.5 games out. They can't win on the road. They're surprisingly 5 games over 500 at home, 22-17. They're 2-8 in their last 10. They were swept by Philly not too long ago. They split the Subway Series just a couple of days ago. Yankees are in Tampa tonight. And the Mets, it's Seinfeld night.
Yeah.
And truthfully, that's the only reason why I'd be there.
This is how you know we're dedicated. Joey and I are here.
Yeah.
Two of the biggest Seinfelds on the planet.
Yeah, there's no...
Today, guys.
Yeah, there's no... Yeah, tonight, 11 to 12 o'clock on Pix 11, by the way. The Phillies come in 45-42, 6.5 games out. Phillies are, in my opinion, an absolute bust this season. But the Mets, they did it the wrong way. And Pete Alonso comes in, home run derby contestant, having smashed over 20 home runs already. Talk about the Phillies, as you were saying.
Well, I'm going to first give you a hot take on the Mets.
Let's hear it.
I don't think they did this necessarily the wrong way. The way they had to look at it was, Jacob deGrom is getting older. If you were going to take advantage of him, you had to try to win now. Now, giving up Jared Kelenic in that Edwin Diaz-Cano trade, honestly, it was a big pay, but by the time Kelenic came up, deGrom would have been long gone. There would have been other problems with the Mets. I like the fact that Gordy Van Langen came in, I'm sure under the guidance of ownership, and said, we got to win now. It made sense.
But we have to do it the cheap way.
Yeah, I mean...
That's the problem.
But,
because really, you're taking on all this money with Robinson Cano, who signed that 10-year, $200 million or $250 million contract? Or,
yeah, it was up there.
It was up there, right. Yeah, and that was one that the Yankees said no 2 years ago, and for good reason, because the Yankees would have been stuck with that contract.
Yep.
And where would Gleyber Torres be? Or where would Didi Gregorius be?
It's hard to lay that.
It is hard.
So much goes on. They probably still would have Didi. They still need a shortstop.
Exactly, that is true. But getting back to this, you look at this lineup, and really, it's such a shame. Yeah, Yoenis Cespedes, who has been an absolute disaster.
But look at that. They spent the money.
They did, but thankfully, though, majority of it is going to come back on insurance.
Right.
Because they have him, they have David Wright, they have David Wright under insurance. There's no shot this Mets ownership is going to pay that type of money.
They get called cheap, and a lot of times they are. I do get it.
And they are cheap.
Around. But still, they have a decently high payroll on the Mets. And when the guy needs to get paid, they get paid. He paid Cespedes after he put the entire team on his back.
But they have problems paying.
They have problems paying, but when a guy needs to get paid that should be paid, they do it.
But they do. But yes. But the problem is that they usually get screwed over with who they pay.
Right.
That's the issue.
It's not necessarily in that exact instance the Wilpons. The real problem is they don't bring up enough talent consistently and groom them properly.
Right.
That's really where the problems come. Noah Syndergaard has all the talent to be one of the best pitchers in baseball. He can't stay healthy. He's been ineffective this year. He's so on and off. He's talking to the media about Jacob deGrom's contract. That's really the thing. The Mets are a zoo because the players run things. Decisions are made based on the fan base clamoring for things. If they got everything else settled, the Wilpons would pay enough to put a successful team on the ball field. I think the Oakland Athletics would love the Wilpons budget. They don't have it.
But they do have Billy Beane.
Yes.
And Billy Beane is one of the best, in my opinion, one of the best, if not probably the second best general manager behind our Brian Cashman.
I can see it. He's up there, but I don't put Billy Beane ahead of Theo Epstein.
That is true. That is true.
He's not exactly the GM. I think he's the president right now.
He is, yes.
That man.
And same thing with Dave Dombrowski, too. But Dave Dombrowski also needs to learn how to build a bullpen.
Right. The problem with Dave Dombrowski is, though, he jumps into a place, spends a ton of money, they win a little bit, then he gets out of it.
Yes.
So Dave Dombrowski...
Just like what he did in Detroit.
Yeah, he's great at winning now and leaving behind the problem for everybody else.
Exactly.
And once Dave Dombrowski all of a sudden vanished from the Red Sox when they have to start paying everybody in their dumpster fire.
Right.
So, yes, he knows how to get in there and get things done. He doesn't build long-term success, though. Right. Theo Epstein is the guy that's, to me, he's the gold standard. I love Brian Cashman. He's had more of a leash to work with.
Gleyber Torres was in that Aroldis Chapman deal.
Yes.
Let's not forget
wonderful
that.
Deal by
yes.
Cashman. I think he's wonderful.
Clint Frazier.
I'd put him at number 2.
With the Andrew Miller deal to Cleveland.
Theo Epstein took the Red Sox from a laughingstock, the drought of the century, to winning 3 titles quickly. He completely rebuilt everything. Then he goes to the Cubs, who had an even longer drought, even bigger joke of a franchise. Rebuilt them, won a title. The guy wins championships in places where they're unfathomable. So, if there is, God up there, I'd love to see Theo Epstein get hired by the Mets at some point. When he runs his course with the Cubs, how great would that be? The ultimate test, the best GM in baseball fighting against ownership that has been called cheap. I think they're given too harsh of a brand, but they are a little cheaper than they should be. There are times when they don't spend the money, there are times when they cheap out. I get it, but I don't think it's as overblown as it's made it, because when the time comes they really got to pay somebody, they usually do it. Jacob deGrom was given 2 years this offseason when he didn't have to get paid. They signed off on that.
He didn't have to, but the whole problem also is that you are in the media capital of the world. You are the media capital of the world. Let's not forget also, the New York Yankees are just to the north of you. And they are making you literally the laughingstock of New York baseball, because what the Steinbrenners do, and truthfully, I don't want to say that they don't spend money, but guess what? After George Steinbrenner died, there was a time when they wanted to be at the $180 million threshold. And that was the way it was going to be for the foreseeable future. Now, all of a sudden, now things are looking good. And Hal Steinbrenner has now come out publicly and said, hey, listen, let's do it. He's come out publicly before, and he has also said, I don't want to be above $180 million because then that's when the luxury tax kicks in. Now, they're getting closer to the upper echelon of the salary of the luxury tax, or the salary threshold, rather. There's no salary cap in baseball, obviously. Same thing goes in basketball. There's no cap.
No,
it's a soft cap.
It's a weird cap.
Right, it's a soft cap,
yes.
yes.
The term, but it's a very confusing.
Yeah, and it is a luxury tax.
You can go over to sign your own
baseball.
guys, if you're
right.
a bird,
or with basketball, yes. Right. But keeping here, you look at Robinson Cano's numbers, and he has been an utter disappointment this year. 4 home runs, 17 doubles, 55 hits, 19 runs, 18 RBIs, and only 14 walks, 46 strikeouts.
That's a troubling one. He's been always such a good contact hitter, a guy who puts the ball in play, smart, guy you can almost guarantee can hit 280. It's been so sad to watch a guy that we used to root for and enjoy crumble in a place where there are eyes on him. If this was happening in Seattle, so many less people would care outside of Seattle. It wouldn't be as disappointing. But now, he went to the Mets into a win-now scenario, and they really needed him to hit. And it's been really, really, really sad to watch him not give his usual, give the usual lackluster effort and not play well. Usually, you get good numbers, and you just get angered with him for not running. Now it's everything at once, and he's under pure scrutiny on every regard.
289 on-base percentage, 365 slugging, 654 OPS.
Those, in that order, should be his average on-base and slugging. Instead, they're not.
Yeah, exactly. And it's really, he might get booed out of Queens. He might get booed out of Queens, and really, from what we've seen from the media, it has not been, it's been an absolute firestorm, because we rewind a couple of weeks ago where Jason Vargas absolutely went crazy on a media reporter from Newsday.
Tim Healy.
And yeah, Tim Healy. And not only that, too, you see that there's no place for that. And I'm one that works in the media. And really, truthfully, I get tensions are high. The media needs to do their work. I get it. But in my opinion, if I were Tim Healy, I'd let someone else ask that question. I'd let someone else ask that question. But regardless, now you look at it from the baseball side of things. As not only do I work in the media, I also work for a college in the NCAA. So I have to be the one to deal with all of these media personnel. So you could, unfortunately, there's no me to remove a coach. And you can't remove a coach, because if you really wanted to, or if you need to remove somebody from the situation, then that means it becomes a public relations nightmare. And that's unfortunately what happened here, because Jason Vargas and Mickey Callaway both lost their cool. Mickey Callaway, unfortunately, just as you saw a couple of days after, on top of them losing, on top of Edwin Diaz not doing the job, not closing the job, rather, Robbie Cano, not doing it. Todd Frazier, not doing it.
Todd Frazier's been a little better.
Todd Frazier has been better.
There are a lot of guys to pin the problem on before Todd Frazier.
Yes, that is true. I'm just reading the,
Yeah.
Okay.
It is totally.
Pete Alonso has been the bright spot, the only bright
him
spot.
And Jeff McNeil.
And we look at Jeff McNeil's numbers: 349 average, 411 on base, 516 slugging. His OPS 928, 35 RBIs, 7 home runs, 23 doubles, 96 hits, 38 runs.
And he had a moonshot the other day to lead off the game.
He did against the Yankees, and really, Jeff McNeil has been absolutely amazing. And there have been thoughts and a lot of rumors going around that he could be taking over Robbie Cano's spot at some point. And really, by rights, if Robbie Cano was not getting paid all that money, and remember, the Mets took on all that money from Seattle. Same thing goes with Edwin Diaz. That was the spicer, if you will.
Right, Diaz was the talent.
Diaz was the talent, but you
money.
had to take Cano.
Yeah, but the Mets also dumped off some contracts they didn't want. They got rid of the Swarzak contract they didn't want. They got rid of Jay Bruce's money they didn't want.
Yep.
So, like, the longer-term money was with Cano, but they were able to basically, I think, almost match the money they brought in that trade with what went out. That's the problem, though, is that may have been a situation where the Wilpon should have opened the wallet, so they didn't have to give up Kellenic. They could have just taken on the Cano and Diaz and gave it up a minor prospect. They had to dump the bad contracts. That's when they're cheap. Like, that was a situation where if you're going to go all in...
But then they took back a bad contract.
I know, but that's the thing. You're the Mets. You're the Wilpons. You need to take in the bad contract, pay it, and not give up a top-tier prospect to send out 2 contracts that aren't as bad as the one you're taking. They got the worst contract out of the whole trade and gave up the best prospect. Yes, you got the best player in Edwin Diaz, who should be pitching a lot better than he is, but that was the spot where the Wilpons go under scrutiny. A trade like that, you need to be able to do what's best for the team to win now if you're trying to win now. Open the wallet, pay for Cano, pay for the guys that you already signed, hang on to them, if you have to buy them out, or pay them just not to be there. If you really don't think they're deserving to be on the roster, do it. Don't give up your best prospect, because now you have nothing to trade if you want to take another step. You have nothing to use in the future, no hope for the franchise going forward if this little blurb doesn't work out. And
on top of it, too, Edwin Diaz, 1-5, has 33 innings pitched, 35 hits total, 18 for 22 in save opportunities. He has been far from stellar, and last year he set a franchise record in Seattle for most saves, and you know, it's funny. That is very similar to what happened with K-Rod in Anaheim. You
fair,
take on and go ahead.
Here's the thing with K-Rod. He set the saves record. I had him in fantasy that year. The thing that people didn't notice is he blew like 6 saves that season. He wasn't as dominant as the save number said he was. So he was very much a very easy candidate to say he's not going to do that again. It was all about having a ton of opportunities. His percentage of saves wasn't great. He blew a ton of them. He had a decently high ERA for a guy who was being lauded as this unbelievable reliever. He always had the stuff, but he didn't have the control to go with it. He blew a lot of saves that season. So when everything fell apart from him, I was far from shocked. Yeah, you're not wrong, and something that I want to bring up as well. Just a couple of days ago, Brodie Van Wagenen was one of the Mets front office members to get asked, do we remember about Jed Lowry? Do we remember about the Jed Lowry? If I'm not mistaken, Nick, he hasn't played this year at all. He has not played. He was landed on the DL, or on the IL, on the injured list. Rather, I do apologize to those who I may have offended just now. March 28th, retroactive to March 25th. So this is going all the way back to spring training. The injury, sprained capsule in his left knee, grade 1 hamstring strain. You may not even need Jed Lowry anymore. Could put him at second base. Yeah, that's... I think.
You put Jeff McNeil in right field, where he's starting tonight.
I would assume that if Jed Lowry was healthy and playing the way he should be, probably Cano wouldn't be playing anymore.
Yeah.
Because J.D. Davis has shown that at the very least he can hit left-handed pitching, and he's had some pop. He's having trouble getting in the lineup with this lineup.
And Jed Lowry was signed to be their third baseman this season.
Well, Todd
because
Frazier
really
was there, but that was the spot that probably he would have keyed on because Frazier was really bad last season.
Well,
but he was also kind of a Swiss Army knife that they could play in a couple of different spots. Lowry.
But Jed Lowry would be starting. Jed Lowry would be.
He probably would have been the opening day third baseman, but I think the Mets were going to do a very much infield by committee kind of thing, where a lot of guys would have got a lot of rest. You have some veterans there that you don't want to play every day, so things really got cycled in and out. But also, one thing the Mets were hoping for better turnout on is Amed Rosario. They were really hoping his bat would be great this year, stepping up. At the very least, he was supposed to be a great defensive shortstop. He's been a disaster. That's another spot Lowry could be playing if he was healthy. He could be playing shortstop. He might be at Rosario's level defensively at this point in his career, but at least he'd be hitting. Rosario's been so disappointing, and he's a guy that I thought had a really bright future. And that's another thing. That's what undoes the Mets so often, too, is that these guys have huge, bright futures coming up. They need to be able to succeed at the major league level. Whether it's the manager not doing his job, the rest of the coaching staff not doing their job, the minor league coaching staff not doing their job, that's things that have to get changed. That's where things have to come
it's funny you say that, Nick, because really the way I see it as the farm system, and it goes all the way to Port St. Lucie, all the way up to Binghamton. There is a problem in that system.
Hard for the Mets to have a good system going. They all the time are going through years of losing and not developing guys as much as they should be, and that's another area where it's not as obvious to people that the Wilpons need to spend money there too. They need to have a better scouting department. They need a better analytics department. I've heard it might be only one lonely guy in a room or two people. That needs to change. That's really where the Wilpons need to spend the money. The salaries for the players, I don't think he does that bad of a job there. I think he's not.
He has bad luck.
He does.
They have bad luck.
Bad luck signing the wrong guys. Nobody would have said outright, "Don't sign Cespedes." The fans were begging for him to sign.
Everybody.
JCK, the fans were happy with that when it happened. That turned out to be a disaster. Sometimes it's bad luck, but it's the other end of it. The business side of it, they need to be pumping more money in, because that's what the Yankees do. I think better than anybody. They have an unbelievable scouting staff. That's why they just got this 16-year-old kid who's being compared to Mike Trout.
And there have been rumblings also that he could be the next Mickey Mantle as well. That's
something. I mean, Trout is obviously an amazing player, but Mickey Mantle to a Yankee fan is like, whoa.
That's
the kind of thing. The Mets aren't as good there. They're scouting. The Yankees just do everything so well behind the scenes. So if they say we're not going to hit the luxury tax, we know that money's going in other important places that allow them to bring in guys like Torres, who's not making any money. Aaron Judge right now isn't making any money. Gary Sanchez isn't making any money. Half this lineup is making no money. Their highest paid player is Jacoby Ellsbury, and I'm pretty sure people in the organization are just telling him, don't come near us.
And if I'm not mistaken, he only has this season and next season left. So I would assume so, and we'll get verification on that.
Transfer to, okay, now that Ellsbury's not getting paid anymore, now we can start paying these other young guys, because obviously Judge, Sanchez, are going to need contracts.
Yeah, there's no doubt about it, but I want to revert back to Amed Rosario back on the Mets. You spoke about how defensively, how bad he's been this season. He has 12 errors.
That's obscene.
He had a total of 16 in all of 2018. So this season, he's turned only 34 double plays, 708 total innings. Okay, I get we're only before the All-Star break, so yeah, last year he was injured for a little bit. 1,271 and 2/3 innings. Fine, he's at 708 right now. We're not at the All-Star break yet. He's played in every single game so far. We're at 81 games already. Can you believe, Nick? The All-Star game is in 5 days.
Yeah, it's tough because we're fans of
4 days.
We're fans of old sports, so obviously we were locked into the NBA playoffs, the NHL playoffs. I also follow soccer and MLS. That's been going on for a while now.
We'll get to that next episode for sure.
It's so hard for me to be locked into Major League Baseball with so many other things going on. So now that finally the hockey season ended, basketball season ended, then you got free agency for both of those, so my attention is still a little up. It's so hard for me to get fully into baseball until after the All-Star break.
Same with me.
That it always jumps up on me, and I'm like, oh, out here already? Alright,
Yeah.
What's going on?
Yeah.
What did I miss? But thankfully I've been able to stay locked in. I just haven't been able to watch as many games because so many other things are going on TV.
Yeah, no, you're right, and you said it too. The way that it is, we have Monday Home Run Derby, and to me that is the greatest night, because once I know the All-Star game happens that night, the way I always see it, I know every year Fox comes out with the postseason graphic, and to me, I think about it, my goodness, summer is almost over already. And truthfully, yes, it is only July 5th today, but before you know it, we're going to be turning around and we're going to be talking about the U.S. Open over in Queens and fantasy football and the league that we're probably going to be playing in all together, and it's really going to be such a shame. But heading back to the Yankees, actually tonight they are in Tampa Bay, and we'll see what happens with the Yankees. They came off of I believe it was a 5-1 victory on Wednesday night. Yeah, it was a Wednesday night victory for the New York Yankees. So there's a lot of turnaround in all of baseball. CC Sabathia is getting honored
They're not coming off the Nets game. Sorry, they beat the Rays. Remember last night, 8-4.
Yes, that is my mistake. Right, yes. So, yes, they did play, yeah, because I keep thinking for some reason today is July 4th. No, that is 100% wrong. Tonight, Yankees put out Tanaka. Tampa Bay puts out McKay.
So excited to see Brandon McKay pitch. The guy comes out, his first Major League start, and starts off with almost 6 perfect innings. The guy apparently can hit also. We're not going to get to see that just yet. He's one of those super intriguing prospects. And you know when Tampa brings up pitching, they know what they're doing. They bring up pitchers, they end up good. Brandon Snell, Tyler
Blake Snell, yeah.
Oh, yeah, my bad.
You're good.
Glasnow, David Price going back. They know how to develop arms. They've always had pitching. So
Chris Archer.
Yeah, Chris Archer, who kind of topped out and they were able to flip before that became a real bad thing for them. They're just very smart with their pitching, and I know this kid's going to be exciting, and I really can't wait to see him hit again because, obviously, Shohei Ohtani has taken the league by storm. Rookie of the Year last year. So fun to watch. If it wasn't for an arm problem, he'd still be pitching now, but I like this. I like that these new kids are coming up. They can pitch and hit. It's going to be really fun.
The next time we're going to see Tampa Bay in a National League ballpark will be August 12, 13, 14 on a 3-game set in San Diego in Southern California. So we'll see. Hopefully Brandon McKay will be in the starting lineup there, and we could see him possibly hit. And I'm sure that week when we have our show, we'll be bringing up this part of the segment, and we'll be bringing up about Brandon McKay for sure. I'll just be coming back from Toronto just a few days before. I'll be live from Toronto on the Friday in August. I'll tell you all the exact date in just a moment, but you guys will be here, and it'll be actually August 9th will be the show time, live from Toronto. And, yeah, it's absolutely surreal what's going on in Tampa, Nick, with Montreal being the potential home for those guys.
I really hope that's just a smoke screen, that they're just trying to get an actual field for Tampa to play on. I also really hope they don't pigeonhole themselves into Tampa. I don't know if there's a market in Florida for a baseball team. 2 of them massively struggling, can't put people in the seats. It might just be better to move them to more sports-friendly towns. It sucks for Florida. I'm sure there are dedicated fans there that would hate to see them go, but they're toiling away down there. Imagine if Tampa played in Nashville and had an unbelievable fan base and more money to spend with this scouting department and these brain trusts running it. They bring in forward-thinking guys. They started the whole opener craze. Like, this team having a little more money behind them and a great fan base could be something really fun to watch in a division that already has the Yankees and Red Sox that are consistently successful. It'd be a really, really, really wild division if you could get another successful team in there.
I also believe, and I don't mean to cut you off, but the way that I see it, let's not forget. You said Nashville is a place.
Just spitballing. I haven't heard anything about that, but they don't have a baseball team, and their fans are incredible.
And neither does Charlotte. And Charlotte is another team that fills in the seats day and night with the Charlotte Knights, the Chicago White Sox affiliate, AAA affiliate. And that ballpark, BB&T ballpark, they could easily, in my opinion, fill up a full stadium. If they're filling up AAA for the Chicago, and don't get me wrong, the Chicago White Sox, their roster, their farm system,
they've seen some good names come up.
They have seen some very good names come up, and really, just by looking at some of their guys here, one of which, Jacob Lindgren.
Dylan Cease just made his MLB debut.
There you go. You have him too.
Eli Jimenez was there for a little bit.
And looking at some of these guys here, a lot of major league talent. Ryan Goins, Alcides Escobar, Ivan DeJesus, Brandon Guyer, all these guys who could not make it, they're winning. They're winning, they're doing a good job, but they're also, again, filling the seats. That's exactly what they're doing.
Because both Carolinas don't have any baseball there, so that could be another good spot.
47-39 coming into tonight's game against Norfolk. The Nationals. Farm team.
Speaking of farm teams, I have another fun spot for a team.
Let's hear it.
One of the Mets affiliates is from Viva Las Vegas.
That is true.
Who has shown an absolute booming fan base for their hockey team. They're going to have a football team soon. Who's to say a baseball team wouldn't work in Las Vegas? Maybe that's similar for the baseball we look at, because it's a spot that, while it's filled with tourists, and that's what we really thought the Knights fan base might be, is a ton of people coming from out of state to visit, to catch a game. But they built an incredible home fan base right there, just as they got there. It didn't take any time to build. From day one, that fan base was rabid there every night, supporter sections, fun things. They really, really revolutionized everything. I think they could do the same for baseball, which has kind of lost interest over the common fan. With all these
baseball has
things
died.
going on. Baseball is dying. Vegas may be the kind of place to spark a little interest in a spot, maybe get a little attention back to the game, if they can replicate some of the things Vegas is doing.
Las Vegas Aviators, they're actually now owned by the Oakland Athletics. They were just 2 years ago owned by the Mets, and then prior were the Toronto Blue Jays for 3 seasons. Then before, obviously, the Dodgers, and then prior to that for almost 20 years, the San Diego Padres. Let's take a peek. We're just 6 minutes away from our second and final sports update. Nick, Women's World Cup, Netherlands, USA, on Fox, Sunday.
I'm so hyped. I'm a budding soccer fan. I've followed the national teams for a while. I've always loved watching World Cups, and now more like Gold Cups and things like that. Any chance I get to watch the women's and men's team. Men's team are also playing for a championship on Sunday. Sunday is being lauded as a tremendous soccer day in this country. You have the women in the morning playing the Netherlands, should be favored, although the Netherlands are the European champions. So this is kind of like a nice little matchup here, the European champions versus the de facto North American champions. These women are incredible. Watching these games, the things that they do, I've watched plenty of men's soccer. Some of the things that these women do are ridiculous, and I think they could absolutely, many of them, play on the field with some of the men from this country. One of the games I was watching, the header that Julie Ertz had, it was like a back header flick right into the top corner. Carly Lloyd had a volley in that game off of a ball in the tip of the box, put right into the side of the net. They're incredible. The balls that they hit for passes, the crosses, the headers, they're absolutely incredible. If you're not even a soccer fan, you can enjoy watching these ladies, because they do things that you don't even see in men's games. They do things that draw the interest of absolutely anyone, and I'm begging, if you haven't watched, pick Sunday as one day to watch some soccer. Watch the ladies in the morning, and then watch the men at night. Both playing for championships. The men at the Gold Cup, the women in the World Cup. It's going to be great.
3 years ago, the last time that these two countries met in the Women's International Friendly in preparation for this tournament. And the United States took that 3-1 in 2016 November, as a matter of fact. And September 18th, 2016, November 2nd, 2006, United States, Netherlands, 2-0. Alex Morgan comes into this contest as the leading scorer for the Americans. 5 matches, 6 goals. Megan Rapinoe, 5 goals, 4 matches. Carly Lloyd coming off the bench, 3 goals, 6 matches.
To be fair, she had, I think, 2 of those goals in the one game she started.
She did. She did. And
this could also, another storyline, that could be her last international game with the United States, so it's a big thing. If they're winning late, and it's at least a 2-goal lead, I can almost guarantee you Carly Lloyd comes in as almost a farewell if they have any chance to put her on the field and let her get one last couple of minutes. But if it's a close game, they might not be able to throw Carly Lloyd in there. We don't know. Coach Jill Ellis has been a master tactician. Megan Rapinoe didn't play in the last game. It was an elimination game. Megan Rapinoe is one of their best players, but I heard the decision was based on defensive assignment. that the best player for Spain was going to be coming down her side defensively. And
England.
I'm
yes,
sorry.
You're okay.
I went back an extra game.
That's okay.
The best English player was going to be playing in the area where Megan Rapinoe defends.
And you put Christian Press in.
Who is a better defender. And guess what? Christian Press scores early in the game.
Yep.
There were a lot of critics before that wondering what was going on. I think they came out with an injury also for Rapinoe afterwards. But my guess is if they wanted to play Rapinoe, she was going to play. They saw an opportunity to give her some rest. If she had
you also don't want to have a Kevin Durant type issue either.
Yeah, obviously.
On the national stage.
Because I heard it was hamstring, if anything, for Rapinoe, and that's definitely one you don't want to mess with. If you want to have her ready for the championship and you think Christian Press can defend and also chip in offensively, it's a good opportunity. That's one of the things about this women's team that's so unbelievable. Every single player on that team can contribute. They've played so many girls. They all step up in every moment. There's no drop-off. It's incredible. They could lose 5 starters right now and they'd still be the favorites, I think, in this game. They're incredible. They are an absolute juggernaut.
And it's crazy because I work for a soccer team, and you said it, Nick. You said it yourself. Not really big soccer fans. We're budding soccer people. And in addition to that show, August 9th, being live from Toronto, the next day, I'll be attending the Toronto FC game. The first game that I was telling you since 2008, when the New York Red Bulls were still playing at Giant Stadium. That long ago. Looking to this United States... Okay, go ahead.
Quick note.
Yeah.
Toronto FC, the reigning MLS Cup champions, they were dominant last year, led by Americans Michael Bradley and Josie Altidore.
Yep.
They've taken a little bit of a step back this year. Well, no, sorry. They've taken a lot of a step back.
Yes. So, we'll see what happens with that. It's going to be a ton of fun. I want to speak about also someone that I used to go to school with who was on that England squad, Rachel Daly. Couldn't believe it. I could not believe that someone that I went to school with at St. John's University, someone that I knew, was playing for the FIFA Women's World Cup. Absolutely surreal.
Amazing.
One of the best, or actually the best women's soccer player in Queens. Looking at Toronto FC, I want to bring up 6-5-8 win-draw-loss record, and you are 100% right. The Philadelphia Union 10-5-5 with a plus 11 goal differential. Toronto has a minus 3 goal differential. And the team that they're playing, Orlando City SC 6-3-9. I think I know why my tickets were cheap.
Yeah, Orlando has been much of a disappointment. You will get to see, though, Nani, the very widely heralded player that they brought in this year, who has definitely been a spark plug. Just one player doesn't make a team. He's not the level of superstar that Wayne Rooney was when he came to DC United, or Zlatan Ibrahimovic coming to the LA Galaxy. Nani's a nice player. He's exciting. So it's something to be able to say you saw a world star play.
Could be, for sure. Yeah, that would be nice. So we're going to go to our 6:31 sports update right now. The second one right here on the Primetime Rundown on Blog Talk Radio, simulcasting live on the I-95 Sports and Entertainment Network. The first update we're going to bring you, Nationals third baseman Anthony Rendon will not be participating in this year's 2019 All-Star Game. Unfortunately, Max Muncy will be replacing Anthony Rendon, and the reason why, apparently he announced it on Twitter, or rather Major League Baseball announced it on Twitter, is because of a quote-unquote nagging injury for a few weeks now. According to Byron Kerr of MASNsports.com and MASN Sports, Nationals manager Davey Martinez has said that Rendon is all about the Nationals, and the decision to not go to the All-Star Game to mend an injury is another example of where Rendon's focus lies. No surprise you look at something back just a few years ago in the Olympics with John Tavares when he was an Islander. You don't want to jeopardize your team. And then obviously the Islanders didn't make the playoffs that year. Obviously we won't get back into that. But then you look at also Kevin Durant. There is now, ever since the Kevin Durant injury in the final contest, when he blew out his Achilles, and
I don't think it was his Achilles, I think it was his meniscus.
No, it was
John Tavares was...
No, I'm sorry. No, we were talking about Kevin Durant.
Sorry.
Kevin Durant.
We were back on Tavares.
No, his meniscus was, yes, it was his MCL. He blew that out and the meniscus as well. Yes, that entire knee was shattered. And that was where former general manager Garth Snow did say, it's not right. There should be insurance when it comes to that, but we're not going to get into that. We're going to stick here to our sports update. And honestly, I can't really deny, I can't really disagree with what is said here with Anthony Rendon from the Nationals. He doesn't have to play. It's not required like how it is in the NHL level where you would have to sit out a game. So we'll see what happens. It's going to be it's good to see a lot of these players in the All-Star game, but not some of them may not have deserved it. They'll be there. It's a player's vote. It's not the way it used to be years ago. I know you and I have we have a completely different opinions on the All-Star game. You don't like it to be counted. I love it to be counted. I think it's good for ratings. It's good for TV. It's good for the players. But we won't get into that now. That'll be for next week. So that is your 6:31 update. Not much to discuss. Actually, you know what? We will give you one more update. We'll give you the starting lineups for both teams for your local Yankees and Mets. Right now, the Yankees and the Rays, they'll be opening pitch 7:10, just 10 minutes following our broadcast here on Blog Talk Radio. DJ LeMahieu leading off at first base, Aaron Judge, Edwin Encarnacion, Gregorius, Torres, Urshela at third, Brett Gardner in center, Tauchman in left, Austin Romine is doing the catching. The way that you see, Nick, Tampa Bay, they have a lot of turmoil off the field. Their public relations has been a disaster. The Yankees are one of the best teams in baseball, 25-15 on the road. They've been not a surprise. When you trade for Edwin Encarnacion,
who Tampa was trying to acquire at the time the Yankees swooped in and stole,
and to no one's avail, could we see a rematch of the 1955 World Series? Dodgers-Yankees.
I think we could. Realistically, for me, the American League is going to come down to the Yankees and the Astros. I think the Rays are a solid team. I think the Red Sox are trying to claw their way back into it. The Twins have been a great story, but we all know what happens when the Twins and the Yankees play in the playoffs. We've seen this too many times in recent years. This might be the best Twins team that's been in that playoff situation. I just don't see it happening any other way than Yankees, Astros, and the American League. The National League might be a little more open, but the Dodgers look like they're the clear-cut best team. We've seen them get to the World Series before. We know what their players are. We know what they can do. I could very well see that rematch. And boy, would Major League Baseball love that. If they're struggling for ratings, Yankees, Dodgers, it doesn't get more high profile than that.
And not only that, too, 1955, they were still in Brooklyn. So it was a battle of New York. Now, it's East Coast and West Coast, LA, New York.
Yep,
I think that would be...
both major fan bases, geographical ties. It would be the best thing for baseball if that's what happened.
And you said it, Nick, also with the Minnesota Twins as well. Minnesota right now, they are a few games, I believe it's 6 games ahead of the Cleveland Indians, 54-32. Cleveland, I think we've completely secured that. I want to talk about Cleveland, and from what we've heard so many times, fire sale, trading guys for pennies to the dollar, Corey Kluber, Trevor Bauer. There are too many players to name that could be gone. Mike Clevenger, Roberto Perez, Kevin Plawecki.
Yeah.
You can keep him as a starter. Arguably the best third baseman in all of baseball, Jose Ramirez. Francisco Lindor. 48-39. They're not up to expectation. And the last 2 years has been subpar at best.
Yeah, they don't have the money to go out and spend big. They were able to land Encarnacion.
They're a small market team.
He didn't perform the way they needed him to. They really haven't taken another step since they went to the World Series and lost to the Cubs in thrilling saving game series. That was phenomenal. You feel bad for the Indians. They built it the right way. They have all these young studs they brought up through their own system. They got to the World Series. They lost in 7 games. I always thought that they'd continue to make runs, and they really did. They've been a good team. It's just that the Yankees and Astros have just been a little bit better, and that's just how it's going to go down for Cleveland. I don't know if they're going to be able to rebuild this thing because they have too many guys they have to pay that they're not going to be able to pay. They're going to have to sell off the parts that they think they can get a lot for and just keep kind of trying to retool on the fly and hope new young guys come up and take their spot, but they may have missed their chance.
Mike Clevenger, Shane Bieber, Roberto Perez, Carlos Santana, who they reacquired. Philadelphia, Philadelphia signed him to a free agent deal. Philadelphia traded him to Seattle. Seattle then traded him to Cleveland.
Right.
So they reacquired.
Right. Yeah.
Jason Kipnis back to playing second base. At one point, he was the starting center fielder.
That was something. He wasn't that bad out there.
He wasn't.
It was a wild experiment, but it kind of worked. It was the spot they just couldn't fill. Was out there in the outfield. It was always a tough go. And you know what? You feel bad for the Indians. Look at Michael Brantley. They stick with him for so long. He just keeps getting hurt. He showed all that promise. They finally cut ties. He goes to Houston. He's an all-star.
And he's a starter.
Finally puts it all together when he goes to Houston, obviously one of Cleveland's biggest rivals in the American League as one of the top teams. It's just bad luck.
Houston also, on top of it, they have lost. Well, actually, their outfield, one of the best in the American League. And I won't consider Josh Reddick amazing, but when Josh Reddick at the time was with the Athletics, he was traded to the Dodgers, and no, there was really not much there.
It was the deadline, I think, right?
Yes, it was a deadline acquisition. I believe that was 2 years ago. Now you have Michael Brantley in left. You had sometimes Yuli Gurriel out there. He's now playing third base. You also had, I think it was Marwin Gonzalez at times. He played everywhere. He played everywhere. And now you have Yuli Gurriel playing third base, Alex Bregman's at short while Carlos Correa's out. They're finding pieces to fill in. Tyler White playing first base. Jose Altuve, amazing. But you know, Houston's really having such good luck. First place in the American League West, 55-32. Last team I want to bring up, San Diego. And it's a shame how San Diego has, well, I don't want to say fallen off the grid because they haven't been on the grid in years, since the Adrian Gonzalez days. 42-45, 17 games behind the Dodgers. They're on a 5-game losing streak. Manny Machado, we don't hear them much. And why? Because there's nothing to talk about.
Well, see, the thing with the Padres
unfortunately,
is they're doing things right. They have an outstanding farm system with guys still trickling in. They weren't ready to win this year. Just because you signed Manny Machado wasn't going to change everything. Signing Eric Hosmer last year wasn't going to change anything. They wanted to get some good veterans in, so when these young guys come up and they start exploding onto the scene, have some veterans there who have a little playoff experience, who are your linchpin veteran leaders to support this young guys they have coming up. Chris Paddock looked amazing this year, then he got hurt. They're trying to limit his innings. You have to be careful there. Fernando Tatis is phenomenal, but these young guys keep coming up. San Diego might be a 500 team this year. That's a step up from what they've been recently. So at least they're showing a little bit of progress. It's just a very tough division. You have 3 teams ahead of them that all made the playoffs last year.
it is, but the problem also that we look at here is that you are right about the way that things work in terms of they're doing it right. Well, truthfully, hate to tell you, but they didn't do it right when they traded for B.J. Upton. When they traded Steven Souza, who at the time, obviously he's been having bad injury luck. Arizona tore his ACL, I think a game in or 2 games in. San Diego, they're doing it, in my opinion, I disagree with you. I think they're doing it wrong. And the reason why is because you look back to a couple of years ago when they traded They traded, they put all their cards on the table and said, here you go, to Atlanta. What do you want for Justin Upton? I don't know. It doesn't make sense with signing Manny Machado to that big year deal. He's now there, and his life, his next 10 years, he'll be making all that money. Will he ever win a World Series? No. Their infield, Manny Machado, Fernando Tatis Jr., which is unbelievable, just shows how old we're getting. Ian Kinsler, Eric Hosmer. Yeah, that would have been good maybe about 4 years ago.
Well, aside from Tatis, obviously.
Yes, well, Tatis was still in high school. Hunter Renfroe. Will Myers. Will Myers right now is not... He's in the doghouse.
Yeah, it's funny. The way they've put their big dollars haven't made a ton of sense. It's the stuff below it that you have to have confidence in. You gotta be a little patient. Even if they're top tier guys they've paid, Hosmer hasn't really been worth. I don't think the money he got. Myers has been up and down. Machado, the thing with Machado is he's not that old. You gotta figure you still have 6 solid years of him being a phenomenal player, a linchpin at third. If these young guys start coming up, they will have an amazing team. And if you have enough guys making not a lot of money, look at the Yankees. They're paying Ellsbury. He's not even playing because they have so many good young players that are making nothing in their starting lineup. They can have those bad contracts in the rearview mirror. Eric Hosmer, at the very least, will play decent defense at first base and be a leader on their team. So if you're not paying all these other guys, Tatis is going to need a contract soon, Paddock won't need to get paid all that soon. If you keep bringing up young guys, you can have these bigger contracts of guys you might clearly be overpaying that might not be playing that great, but if they can be veteran leaders, be solid defenders, and be decent hitters supporting your young cast, it might work out. They just pulled the free agency string a little earlier than maybe they should have. But I like the idea of what they're doing. Let the young guys come up and be the superstars. Hopefully the guys you've signed can at least be decent veterans to support them. But it's not ready just yet. They still have another couple of years maybe before they're really contenders. They're trying. And that's another thing. Ownership's trying. They've seen how many losing seasons they've gone through there. They've known what the fan base has been putting up with. They tried to fix it a little bit with free agency this year, get a little bit of a buzz. Free agency last year, even if they weren't the right moves, I understand what they're doing. You're at least happy with understanding what they're doing. Even if it doesn't work, they're trying to re-energize this fan base. They're trying to get things going. I'm rooting for them. I root for teams that build through free agency and prospects. They're trying to do it the right way. They don't just go out and buy a bunch of guys or make stupid trades or things like that and wash away a good farm system when they don't have to. I like the fact that they're building this way. I'm rooting for all these guys to come up and dominate.
Yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong. I agree with you. And I agree with the fact that they are trying to win. You look a few years ago when they traded Yasmani Grandal, who did not pan out. He did for a little bit. Still on the Dodgers. If I'm not mistaken, I think he's still the starting catcher.
No, he's not. He's signed a one-year deal with Milwaukee.
Yes.
He's actually having a good year.
That's right.
He kind of got in the Dodgers doghouse. Dodgers doghouse.
Yes, that is right. Yes, with Dave
playoffs.
Dave Roberts, of course. December 18th, 2014. Matt Kemp, Tim Fedorowicz, Yasmani Grandal, Joe Whelan, Zach Eflin, all a part of a 5-player deal going north on the San Diego Freeway. I think the biggest name that they lost was Jesse Hahn, who hasn't really panned out for Oakland. Derek Norris, where did he go? Rene Rivera, remember him?
Yeah.
With the Mets? Okay. Will Myers, Ryan Hannigan, Jose Castillo, Justin Upton from the Braves, Jace Peterson, Max Fried, Dustin Peterson, Malik Smith. Those guys haven't really panned out yet, or ever will.
Malik Smith's playing all right for Tampa.
Yeah, it's not bad.
It's hard to get attention in Tampa.
Yeah.
I think he's in Seattle.
That is correct. Number 0.
Oops.
No, you're okay. Will Nieves, you also signed, or rather you traded for, Craig Kimbrell, B.J. Upton, Melvin Upton Jr., and you traded Carlos Quinton, Cameron Maben, Matt Weisler.
Yeah, that was the last time they went for it. And when they were doing it, everyone
74 and 88.
It was a disaster. Just seeing them make those trades, everyone was shaking their head. And they were jumping the gun too early on a kind of a rebuild they had going then, and they were making trades that didn't make a lot of sense, that didn't seem like they were going to work out, and they blew it. Hopefully this time they don't make the same mistakes. I agree with you that as of right now, it's hard to see a bright future here, because they've shown that they can get impatient and make shotgun bad decisions and things like that, and we've seen that with Hosmer. That contract looks a little ridiculous. Machado, it's way too early to call on that one. You do have to be aware that they could screw this up, but they have the prospect pool there. If things pan out, it could look really good. And we've already seen that Tatis has panned out. He's going to be a stud. We've seen Paddock pitch. He's going to be a stud. It's a matter of how many more guys can they bring up, and if they can be patient with the right ones and develop them correctly.
Well, I could tell you one person or one team where it hasn't panned out at all. Do you remember a pitcher, and this is for the rest of everybody, named Shelby Miller? Arizona and Atlanta. You know, we normally don't say, well, you know, it takes a few years before the win can be seen or the loss can be seen from a team. December 9th, 2015, when Shelby Miller was traded, Dansby Swanson, who was at one point the starting shortstop. Let's not forget, Didi Gregorius had just left via trade. So you trade away your you're about to be your up-and-coming shortstop in Dansby Swanson, your number 1 overall pick, and Darren Ciarte, who, well, he's doing pretty good now.
Solid play.
Aaron Blair. Aaron Blair is free agent. He's not doing anything now. But Aaron Blair obviously has had problems with his shoulder. Injury issues the entire time, so really it was a 1 for 2. I mean, you look at Arizona jumping the gun. Yep. And then you trade away Paul Goldschmidt. You blow everything up. Arizona could not get past the wild card. They couldn't get past the NLDS. They didn't see an NLCS at all. San Diego's along that line.
Yeah, I can see it. It's tough when you're in a division with the Dodgers, who are almost a gold standard. They always have prospects sit at the top. They have a great development system. They bring up young guys. They know when to trade guys in. They know when to send guys out. You send out Puig, you're still doing pretty good. Like, they know when to move the right guys. They have such good leadership in that organization that it's hard to be a team in that division and compete. It's kind of like Tampa. It's kind of like looking at the Rays in that division. You have 2 superstar teams ahead of you. It's so hard to compete. Even when you're doing things right, it might not break your way. That's kind of how it's been for teams like San Diego or Arizona or Colorado even, they've made the playoffs, but they haven't been able to make noise because it's hard when you have to get into the wild card, because it's so hard to beat out the Dodgers for the division. And even before the Dodgers, it was the Giants in that division running things, 3 championships in like a 5 or 6 year span. So these teams have tried. They've tried different things. They've tried signing free agents. They've tried making trades. Just, things don't always work out. It's hard being in a division with teams that really know how to get it and do things right. So maybe the Dodgers cycle will end at some point. Colorado, Arizona, or San Diego will take over the way that San Fran ran things before the Dodgers really took over.
San Francisco, Bruce Bochy is retiring after this year.
A true legend.
Really a true legend.
One of the last old school managers. Managed with his gut, got things done, won titles, great decisions over and over again. He's the epitome of the anti-analytics argument.
We won't really see another one of him ever again, I don't think.
It's going to be hard. The only guy really swimming out there that I think might be able to do it is Buck Showalter, who can get back in the game in the right situation, because he's still an old school type manager. He's shown that he could rebuild teams if given the right situation. It didn't go great with Baltimore, but they had a couple of years where they were semi-competitive from where you didn't think they were going to be. It just never really came
In
to
the
fruition.
ALDS, yeah. But the problem is that they're another team that doesn't spend money, Baltimore.
No, it's
They,
tough.
they don't spend money at all.
It's hard to spend money when you don't make money, and then it's hard to spend money when you put it in the wrong places. You give Chris Davis
Mark
that
Trumbo.
multiple contract, Mark Trumbo right there with him, and things just don't work out. Sometimes you just got to tear it down. So, I mean, it's tough. Small market teams have to do things in creative ways, and that's the way the Rays have become successful, is that this whole opener thing. They only have 2 or 3 pure starters. They make every trade imaginable to take on little bits of salary to bring in more prospects, because they know that that's the only way they can really build. They're better off using money on bringing in a prospect and a bad player on a bad contract than signing a free agent for that little money. It's not going to move the needle.
Just like the Cincinnati Reds, where they took on Matt Kemp, Yasiel Puig, Alex Wood, Sonny Gray.
Tanner Roark.
Yep.
I think he was just signed outright, but they're doing kind of the same thing San Diego is, where they feel like they're young kids. They've lost for long enough. They have enough of a prospect pool. They have enough young kids, Nick Senzel, that they're trying to supplement it with veterans. They haven't been very good this year, but it's kind of the same situation as San Diego, where maybe if we're a little patient, we give them a few years, more of their kids will come up, make bigger impacts. We'll see how they operate going forward. All of those deals have been kind of a mixed bag. They've been very kind of anonymous out there, where we thought they might be good, but when they weren't good quickly, everyone kind of stopped paying attention. They haven't been any good, so it's like, what am I looking for there? They don't have anything super exciting. Puig hasn't had his usual antics, so...
Taylor Trammell, number 27 on Major League Baseball's 2019 Prospect Watch. And from right now, they got a long ways to go, the Cincinnati Reds. I remember when I was out there in Cincinnati last year, and I went to go see Reds and Pirates. Scooter Gennett.
Yeah,
Unbelievable.
Tough injury.
Unbelievable tough injury, but also remarkable young player. Last year he made the All-Star game, and if I'm not mistaken, I think he was a starter. But regardless if he was a starter or not, he had one of his best seasons. Actually tried acquiring him on fantasy last year.
Him this year.
Yeah.
R.I.P.
Yeah. And he won't be back till next year. So...
Wait, what? Oh, he already came this year, didn't he? He's played a couple of games. He's been back recently. I think he just got dinged up again, but he came back the first time at least. He's playing this season. He might not be back to strength until next year, but he is back. It wasn't that big of a deal. Yeah, he actually just left the game yesterday with groin tightness, but he had come back.
Well, in that case, Nick got me there. And we're actually going to finish with one piece of breaking news. And it's not about Kawhi. You don't have to worry about that. We're going to stick to baseball.
I'm sure that'll break after we're off the air.
Most likely, just like, yeah. So, Phillies beat writer Matt Gelb has reported that Odubel Herrera has been suspended by Major League Baseball for the remainder of the season.
Thank you.
And his wages will be garnished for the remaining 85 games.
Good. There we go. Progress.
Now, we look back to what Nick has spoken about and what we have spoken about earlier in the Semyon Varlamov issue, in the Slava Voinov issue. Does Odubel Herrera deserve to come back and play next season if he is found guilty?
In my opinion, the second you're guilty, you have cost yourself a chance at playing professional sports. These guys are so fortunate to play the game that they love, make millions of dollars.
And then they take it for granted.
And they take it for granted, do something ridiculously stupid. That should be it. You shouldn't get second chances. There are enough players out there banging on the door, busting their butts to try and get in there. Stop costing these guys opportunities by giving jobs to guys who have ruined their one chance. You should not be able to play professional sports if you don't have a clean record behind you. It's ridiculous.
Scott Kingery, Jay Bruce, Bryce Harper. Top 3 outfielders for the Phillies. Andrew McCutchen obviously tore his ACL. As you heard on Blog Talk Radio, we have 90 seconds to go, but...
Quick talk about Kingery. He's had a really solid season for them. He almost got forced out by all those free agent signings. McCutchen might have saved him a little bit. He's been hitting a lot more lately. I think he has almost a 300 average this season. And he was kind of overlooked coming into this year because he was a good fielder. He didn't really hit that much last year, but it was his first year up at the big club after being a big prospect. He's taking a step forward and maybe hasn't gotten enough attention for it.
309 average, 5 stolen bases, 26 RBIs, 10 home runs. Quickly, Nick, I do want to ask you this question. Who wins the home run derby?
Give me the hometown kid. Give me Pete Alonso. He's been incredible. What about you?
Give me a little bit of Vladimir Guerrero Jr. And I personally think his father, what he's done in the past, the offspring is going to really...
Best matchup in the first round by far. Yelich and Guerrero.
The 1 and 8 seed.
It's going to be fun to watch.
It's going to be tons of fun here on Blog Talk Radio. We cannot thank you all enough for tuning in here today. For Nick Partain, I'm Joey Jarzynka saying so long on Blog Talk Radio, simulcast live on the I-95 Sports and Entertainment Network. We'll see you all next Friday, July 12th from 5 to 7 p.m. Follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Good night.
Thanks, guys.